I always found genetics really fascinating because it's so logical. You know, you have this code, this DNA code that basically can allow you to predict exactly what's going to happen in the next generation or even many generations down the line. And that's kind of amazing that that even exists. But at the same time, the code has to be translated, read out into an actual organism at some point, and that's done by proteins and by cells. And the proteins and the cells are subject to making mistakes and to random processes. And I'm really interested in how that affects how we actually use the genetic information. We want to understand how the genome is regulated in general, and particularly how regulation of the genome impacts what gets inherited. In order to do that, we look at the cells that actually mediate inheritance, which are sperm and eggs, particularly sperm. And then we look at the proteins that regulate the genome, so the chromatin proteins. In particular, we're really interested in, as you expand inheritance across millions of generations and look at patterns of evolution, how does regulation of chromatin within the germ cells affect evolutionary processes? And then conversely, how does chromatin itself evolve? The field of genetics right now, the major trend is this production of data. And we have these new technologies that allow us to sequence a ton of genomes, different diseases, different species, different types of genetic information. But there's still this huge gap between just knowing the sequence and knowing what it actually does to the organism in terms of disease, in terms of development, and so on. And so I think our work will really help to bridge that gap and figure out how these differences between genomes actually result in differences between different organisms. I was always interested in nature and especially living things. I think when I was 5 or 6, someone told me you could actually have that as a career, to just learn about nature, and I thought that was the most awesome thing ever. One of the primary things to be a great scientist is creativity. So you have to be creative, to think about what your problem is and how you can approach it in a way that's never been done before, to learn something new. It's my role as a mentor to help each person to become the scientist they already are, to provide them with the resources and any guidance I can give based on my experience to get them where they want to go. What I love about science is really the freedom of it, the ability to ask a question and just pursue it however you can. And you know something about the rules of kind of how to investigate things, how to make sure that you're getting rigorous information. But after that, it's completely up to you. You can ask whatever question you want, whatever you think is interesting, and that's just really exciting. Every day is something new.